Hello everyone and welcome back to our newest episode of IVSA Kelantan podcast show. Today is the 6th episode of our program. Yay, we've come a long way. So the topic for today is veterinary ophthalmology, and our two speakers for today are Dr. Jonathan James Francis and also Dr. Nurshahirah binti Shahrul Nizam. So, hello doctors.
Hello,
Hi.
Eja.
Hello.
It's a pleasure to be in this podcast.
Yeah.
Same goes to me. A nice meeting all of you, and especially Dr. John, my teacher.
Same likewise. It is indeed refreshing to have to see faces in UMK again.
Okay. So just a little bit of you guys' background to our listeners and viewers. So Dr. Jonathan James Francis graduated from University Putra Malaysia in Doctor of Veterinary Medicine in 2003. And he also has a certificate in veterinary ophthalmology from University of Sydney. So Dr. Jonathan has worked 15 years as an experienced companion animal veterinarian with demonstrated history of working in the veterinary industry, such as at Clinic Veterinary Ampang and also Segar Veterinary Hospital Sdn Bhd. Dr. Jonathan also worked as a veterinary officer at University Malaysia Kelantan. And he is currently doing local practices and is a senior veterinarian at NECO Inu Veterinary Centre. He is also a candidate for the National Veterinary Exam or NVE. And a little bit about Dr. Shahirah. Dr. Nurshahirah binti Shahrul Nizam graduated in Doctor of Veterinary Medicine from University Malaysia Kelantan, and she also had her Masters at University Putra Malaysia. She is right now currently working as an academician at University Malaysia Kelantan. So it's nice having you guys here, having this sharing session with us. So very thankful for your time. Okay, so
For sure.
Yeah. Okay, so right now I'm going to pass this for my teammate.
All right, thank you, Ada. Hi, Dr. Jonathan and Dr. Shahirah. How are you
Hi,
guys
Jaya.
doing?
I'm good.
Okay, so we're gonna start off with some light questions. So we're gonna start with Dr. Jonathan first. Is that okay?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay, doctors. So first of all, what inspired you to pursue in this field of specialty? Can you explain a little bit on
Okay,
that?
so to tell you the truth, I didn't start with ophthalmology. After graduating, I did my first. Okay, well, I'm going to boast a little bit. I did my first IM pin a month after graduating.
Wow.
Yeah. So there was a little bit of an interest in orthopedic surgery. So I started off that way for a while. And after that, I don't know, it kind of just moved away from orthopedics and then it came up to ophthalmology. I was very intrigued because I do a little bit of internal medicine. So I was intrigued about diseases that exhibited in the eye. And there was something for me to think about, and there were many diseases, and surprisingly when I've been in practice for so long, you see a lot of eye cases, and that's something that's challenging and we cannot fix, and so on and so forth. And that's pretty much something that sparked my interest into getting into veterinary ophthalmology. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Yeah.
How about you, Dr. Shahirah? What inspired you to pursue in this field, and how did you met Dr. Jonathan?
Okay, actually, not pursuing is not correct word I shall say, because I started off with veterinary medicine just like Dr. John, and actually the interest sparked when I was in year 3 veterinary medicine because Dr. John was the one who taught me. That's why earlier when you guys approached me and I said, oh, I have a good better candidate for this talk, I said you have to approach Dr. Jonathan because I think he's the right candidate lah for this talk tonight. So when he taught me last time, I still remember he first started with all the how to describe eye diseases and then the tools that you need to use. And then at the end of the class, if I'm not mistaken, he showed us pictures of eye cases. 3, we need to describe hyphema, conjunctivitis, how do they look like. So the interest is parked there. And then after the class, dah. Then it reignited when I went to clinical attachment in this one private practice local back in my hometown. And I still remember we had a Shih Tzu with corneal ulcer, and the doctor treated the case using autologous serum, and it need a really good compliance from the owner, but the owner wasn't able to do so the dog was hospitalized for about a month. So I helped out the doctor to, with the serum and stuff. So it kind of like reignited the interest, and then I continued my master. I thought of pursuing a master in ophthalmology, but unfortunately the chance wasn't there. So I just continue with whatever available lah, and that's all.
Okay, thank you, doctor. Okay, for the next question, okay, we'll go back to Dr. Jonathan. So, what is the education pathway to becoming a specialist in the veterinary ophthalmology? Whereby is it in Malaysia or overseas, and what's the difference between them?
Okay, so this one is a little complex because here in this country, unfortunately, there is no specialty per se. You can't actually recognize yourself as a specialist, or you cannot claim yourself to be a specialist unless you're sitting for exams or you are recognized from a veterinary board, veterinary ophthalmology board. There are many boards in the world. There's the American board, veterinary ophthalmology board, and then there's the European one. There is the Australian chapter where they have recognized veterinary ophthalmologists as well. And then there's an Asian one. So it's called the AICVO, the Asian College of Veterinary Ophthalmologists, which you are either, if you are very affiliated with veterinary ophthalmology, if you're doing a lot of ophthalmology cases and so on and so forth, you become a member. And then there are exams which are required. So initially, obviously, you need to clear out your DVM, your 5-year DVM, you sort and settle that and whatnot. And then after that, you pursue that. Here in this country, like I said, it's pretty much people who have got an interest, and then you're a person who has an interest in veterinary ophthalmology, and then you work that way. There are people who do their PhD in ophthalmology and work that way as well. They get a master's in veterinary science and whatnot with a particular interest or a particular explanation in terms of going towards veterinary ophthalmology and pursue it that way. Because if there is a path route, it's going to be pretty much you finishing your DVM, doing a 1-year internship. So the internship can be anything. It can be a rotating internship. What you mean by rotating internships is you do a bit of surgery, you do a bit of internal medicine as well. So it's a 1-year time of just doing that. And then after that, there is a 3-year residency program. So you match first to do internship with either a university or some clinic. And then after that, you do residency. And residencies are usually offered by only universities. So here in Malaysia, unfortunately, UPM and UMK doesn't have that particular residency program. So it's difficult for a person locally to want to actually pursue and to become a specialist per se. Unfortunate. So that part of it is always a little bit of an upsetting thing. So most of the time, if you're planning to do to become specialist per se, and if you want to be recognized as a specialist, it is recommended or probably a way for you to actually leave the country and probably work towards that goal. Yeah, Jaya, I'm done.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Dr. Jonathan. Dr. Shaya, do you have anything to add on to Dr.
Yeah,
Jonathan's
Dr. John,
point?
Dr. John, have you ever come across the Malaysian College of Veterinary Specialists?
Yes, I have heard of it as such and whatnot, but that's the thing. I don't know how about because there are a few people who I know who are already in that group.
They have already started.
They have already been in that. Like they have a person who is the go-to person for dermatology. That's Dr. Han. And then you have got a person who is doing, I think, imaging.
Mhm.
And then you've got people who are doing those kind of things. So there are a few people who are already in the group. I know veterinary ophthalmology has got, I think if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Cheng is in there, Nazaria Cheng is in there.
I
But again, the thing is, it is just locally recognized. It's
Mhm.
people who are in that group and whatnot. I think there are exams that you can sit for it and whatnot, but I don't know full details about it. I'm sorry.
I try to dig about it, but maybe we can dig later also. But
Sure.
as far as know, but I'm not sure. We still need to publish papers. We do research,
That's
and you
for
need to
that's
have
for sure. For
experience.
sure. Yeah.
Then you need, like Dr. John said, you still need to pay for the fee
Yeah.
and sit for exams and only be recognized. But if you go online and you look for Malaysian College of Veterinary Specialist too, they are their own
I
web,
see. I
but
see. Okay.
still,
Is
but
it
still
is
under
it an active
construction.
website?
It's still under construction, doc.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
That would be something to think about. Sure. For
Yeah.
sure. For sure. Yeah.
Maybe when you guys graduated, then maybe it is already there. I'm not sure.
Yeah. We'll probably be up by then when these guys get out of school.
Okay, thank you, doctor. Okay, so
Yeah.
the next question is regarding like the demand of veterinary ophthalmologists. Is it high in Malaysia? What about the demand in overseas
Okay.
as
So
well?
here's the thing. Um, Overseas, I mean, where I'm a member of the Asian College of Veterinary Ophthalmology. So connecting with colleagues overseas was refreshing because Thailand has got their own college. So they have people who are training to be veterinary ophthalmology, but it's only recognized in their country alone. Yes, you are Asian college, but again, sometimes when you're just in the Asian college, if you're not affiliated with the American school or you're not affiliated with the European school and whatnot, is it really truly a specialist? I don't know about that part of it. But again, to get recognition there, to be said as a veterinary ophthalmologist and so on, is an achievement by itself. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Exams lah, there is going to be a lot of exams and things that you need to actually do, like Shira just mentioned, papers and so on and so forth, publications. They're seeing, they're looking at things like that, and how many cases, because you need to log all these cases. There's a lot of things that go into the process of you actually being recognized in that sense. Yeah.
Oh, okay, doctor. What about you, Dr. Shahira? Like, what's your opinion regarding the demand in Malaysia?
There are not, I would probably just say very simply, there are not that many veterinary ophthalmologists or people who have of keen interest in veterinary ophthalmology, so that it's a market that can be tapped. It's an expertise or an area of interest that can obviously accommodate a lot of people. And because eye diseases are extremely common, and people keeping small animals and so on and so forth, and small animals are very susceptible to eye diseases. There are a lot of eye diseases that involves really small pets. When I'm talking about small pets, it's like small dogs and cats and so on and so forth. So those kind of things so there's a market for that. Overseas, obviously, because I would say the level of veterinary medicine overseas obviously is we are still lacking still a little back in terms of pursuing veterinary ophthalmology per se as such, not entirely. Yeah.
And Doc, if you agree with me, like yeah, because of lifestyle diseases, for example, hypertension, diabetes, that resulted in eye cases, we can see the trend of eye cases coming into our practices. If you
For
agree with
sure,
this
for
one,
sure.
so the demand is there. It is just that the ophthalmologist, the a bit behind, like me and Dr. John, I have the interest, but it takes me, maybe 10 more years.
Kind of thing. And the thing is, even in school, I think as students, you guys barely scrape the skim of the top of about veterinary ophthalmology. Yeah, you learn about certain diseases. Yeah, you learn about drugs which can be applied in the eye. Yeah, you talk about things like conjunctivitis, corneal ulcers, and whatnot, but that's about it. You don't really go further. Yeah, there's a cataract. Yeah, you can fix it, but they don't go further and whatnot. And going further than that is you learning on your own. There isn't going to be a mentor or a tutor or somebody who's higher as such and whatnot. And it's difficult to actually find them here in Malaysia. There aren't many people who actually do veterinary ophthalmology. There aren't many.
Okay, thank you, doctor. Okay, for the next question is okay, this question goes to both doctors. So, are there any notable differences in the routine of a veterinary ophthalmologist compared to other veterinarians?
Hey, Dr. John, I think the best person to answer this.
Okay, so like I said just now, in school, you guys learn the basics. Like you don't really have like a topic on veterinary ophthalmology. You have just one section, ophthalmology, and mostly it will probably be small animal because you're not talk much about the eye diseases in cattle or the eye diseases in horses. Yeah, horses more compared to cattle. They do have certain eye diseases which are important and so on and so forth. But if you look at when you talk about equine disease in school, you kind of just bare skim through as such for that portion of it, and you don't talk much on that. But when you graduate and you come out and then you sit for you learn about it on your own, number one, or you probably even go for courses that involves the eye. So like what I did was when I sat for my when I did my certificate in veterinary ophthalmology in Sydney 2010, it was 1 year of learning about the diseases of the eye. Obviously, it cost a little bit of money. Obviously, when you invest in yourself and you want to be somebody and you want to be the go-to person when it involves a certain area of veterinary medicine and so on and so forth, obviously it involves money. So that's what I did. Sit for the course. The course was 1 year. And then after that, they had workshops. So I had to go back. It was conducted by my mentor, Dr. Robin Stanley from Melbourne. He's got a veterinary eye hospital in Melbourne. Yeah, so it's a veterinary hospital for the eye, yeah, just for the eye. So they only deal with eye cases. They don't look at anything else. So that was it. I was there for a couple of months, and that pretty much started off where my passion went out to be as such and whatnot. So I was thinking, yeah, I would take all this knowledge that I had and then come back to Malaysia and do that and do and see cases and whatnot and be of service in terms of veterinary ophthalmology. Yeah. So it is pretty much the road starts after graduation rather than even in school. So the thing is, when you are a private practitioner only, your range is limited unless you are going for specialized classes or you're going for specialized certifications and so on and so forth and moving towards specialty. That's when you actually would see differences and you would probably learn more. So when I went for this certificate thing and whatnot, I learned more than what I did when I was in school. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Okay, thank you, doctor.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. Okay, next we will continue with the questions from Ashley.
Okay, hello doctors. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Ashley, and I'll be taking over the questions from now.
Sure.
So my first question actually goes to Dr. Jonathan. I'm curious, what are the challenges that you come across while pursuing this interest in ophthalmology, and what skills do you incorporate in enduring these challenges?
So I've been in practice for many number of years. Initially, it was the upsetting part about the eye. And this, I think, probably will be something that will happen to you at some point in your life when you become vets in the practice and in the field, is diseases of the eye, or probably even, diseases. I'll put it as a very broad subject as diseases of the eye, where you cannot save or salvage the eye and the animal becomes blind, or you will have to, unfortunately, enucleate and take out that eye. That's very upsetting for the pet, obviously, because it loses the eye. And also upsetting to the owner because they need to see an animal without an eye. Upsetting for the vet because you can't save the eye. All for the simple reasons about, number one, if you don't know much about the eye. Number two, you don't know what you're looking in the eye, because a lot of diseases are diagnosed by looking, and most people don't look. They don't look for certain things. They don't look for certain abnormalities. They don't look for certain signs and yada yada yada. Those kind of things. So when they don't look and so on and so forth, there are lots of diseases or lots of clinical signs which are missed, and it's a matter of just like, oh, doc, can you just give me? It's from a client, like, can you give me this eye drop, da da da, and whatnot, and then we just dispense drugs, and without looking or without searching further, like what this Dr. Shira mentioned about metabolic diseases, for example, cataracts, diabetes. So, cataracts suddenly came out in this dog. Yeah, could it be a diabetic animal? And because most of the systemic diseases, most diseases actually exhibit in the eye, and there's a possibility of missing certain diseases. You may have missed the diabetes, but you thought probably it was just a cataract. Okay, let's go ahead and treat the cataract, and it was actually a diabetic animal. And you may miss those things and so on and so forth. So there are a lot of diseases that are exhibited in the eye, which most young veterinarians or probably who are general practitioners and all may miss, and ophthalmologists may probably pick that up, and then after that look further, and then after that treat further. And I think that's pretty much the challenge. The worry is when it comes to you too late. I think that's pretty much that. That's the biggest challenge, I would say.
Dr. John, sorry, I'm taking over you guys. What about the cost? What do you think the owner to treat the eye cases? If you want to go.
So when we're talking about cost per se, obviously some certain things will cost money. I think we need to move. I think if you ask me, I think we need to move from the mentality that, doctor, I cannot afford this and so on and so forth. Because to me, if you ask me, I think owning a pet is a luxury. For me, I think I live by that principle. If you cannot afford the vet, you cannot afford the pet.
Oh, true.
I think it's pretty basic stuff. Like, if you really cannot afford the vet, you cannot afford the pet. I think it's pointless to want to keep a pet and neglect the animal in that sense. And and then when it costs a bomb to want to do stuff with the animal, regardless of whether it's the eye or any other parts of the body of the animal and whatnot, and then after that you think, yeah, I can't afford this, yeah, no, dog, and whatnot. And then the worst part is about skimming and skipping through certain things which are required for the animal. So there are certain diagnostics which you don't do on the assumption of certain things. Yeah, that's not really the way to go about it. So if you want to go good diagnostics, good ways on how to go about treating the disease and whatnot, regardless of whether it's the eye or not, yeah, a little bit of money needs to be spent, I would say. Yeah, it's obviously going to be expensive, that's for sure. Yeah.
So, is it common for you to receive referrals from general practitioners, doctor? And if so, what are the most interesting cases that you have encountered?
Okay, so I actually work full time now. I used to be locuming a few years back. I go from certain clinics and whatnot. That was me because I had a couple of domestic issues to want to care for back home. So I had to locum for a while. So when I locumed for a while, there were cases where already my colleagues and whatnot already know that I have that I've got an interest in the eye, and so it's easy for them. They're like, oh, ophthalmology, it's something that I'm not so sure. So colleagues of mine who are general practitioners, as such, they like, hey, Jonathan would be the right person to want to look for. And so they called me, hey, doc, do you mind coming and having a look at this eye? Or, there's a case, doc, that I need help. And that's pretty much that. It was that I would come there, give my services and whatnot, and so on and so forth, be rewarded, obviously monetarily. If it's a case that needs my consult and so on and so forth, I give my expert advice. the advice that I feel it is required for the case. Um, right now, since I'm working in full-time practice, I've had in the island. I obviously work in Penang right now. I've got many cases that come up to me that come from different clinics and so on and so forth, because those people know that, oh, okay, there's a person who actually deals with the eye here up in the north. Up here in the north, there are not many eye people. There aren't many eye people. The eye people I know are in KL.
Klang Valley.
Yeah, they're in KL. They are not in up north. So there are not many eye people. So most vets would try and treat the eye. And that's what I meant just now. Sometimes the eye comes to you very late. And then it comes to the point where the upsetting part is you can't save the eye. And it can be a little upsetting lah. I'll put it that way lah. Yeah, a little upsetting sometimes that they've tried a few things and whatnot, and then it comes to you pretty late. That's one. I always tell, and this is pretty much an advice lah in that sense and whatnot. If you aren't sure about the eye, get someone to look at it. Don't just throw things at it and expect it to get better. I mean, we're not trying to doubt your knowledge when we're dealing with the eye, but again, it's very important for you to be absolutely sure that you're going to get the eye better and not skim through, because the thing is, once the eye is lost, it's lost, and you've only got two of those. It's not something that you can, if you lost the eye is lost, and that's the end of it, and so on and so forth. It's either an enucleation or anything that you can't save, and then vision is lost. And vision is lost, yeah, you get a blind animal. The animal is not bothered so much about it until it's blind on both eyes, and then it becomes another issue. Things like glaucoma, diseases which are very difficult to treat and whatnot, and needs to be treated ASAP, really, really quickly, and really and immediately, because it can eventually lead to blindness. And that's where it's so important to have referrals, quick referrals and whatnot. Even if it's if you feel that you're like bounded by geography, you're very far away. I've got friends who call me out from KL and whatnot. Hey, doc, I've got this case, blah blah blah, doc, what do you think, and so on. And that's fine, and I've got no issues about sharing my own knowledge and what they can do, and so on and so forth. And that's the best part. If they cannot refer the cases, I'm so welcome to having people just calling me up and just asking, hey doc, what do you think about this? And I think that's the way we help each other and try and do the best that we can to try and save that eye. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty much that. So referrals, I would say, the most interesting case I've had so far was this rabbit, which actually had something called a pseudotrigium. A pseudotrigium, I think you can Google this and you probably read about it, a pseudotrigium. That was an interesting case because I fixed the eye and I did a modification. It was a surgical procedure. I did some modification to it and whatnot, and presented it as a poster presentation at the American College of Veterinary Ophthalmology. So they had their conference in Minneapolis, Minnesota, back in 2018, and I was
there?
I was there in the US, and I had my first poster presentation, and that was a achievement, and that was a very a proud moment for me, I would say. Yeah.
Clap, 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 clap.
Yeah.
Thank you, Doctor. So I have one final question for Dr. Jonathan.
Yeah.
Do you have any future endeavors or plans for your interest in this field?
So here's the thing. The fact that I actually sat for my certificate in veterinary ophthalmology a while back is I would say probably my ophthalmology may be slightly rusty, or probably the knowledge may be a little outdated. There are many things. I mean, medicine evolves every day, every second, every minute. There's always new things coming up and whatnot. So not only veterinary medicine, medicine as a whole. So my knowledge may be very limited now. Me doing papers, writing papers and whatnot. So the reason why I was supposed to go see a friend tonight was actually to send a a sample. I've got an eye that I took out, unfortunately, a few weeks ago. This one was suspected to be a uveal melanoma. It's a tumor in the eye, and I'm sending it out to UPM to get it diagnosed histopathologically.
Mhm.
So that's an interesting case that I wanted to think about and whatnot, and also to write papers. That's pretty much that. I think that's the way to go forward, to present papers, to like I said, the highlight of I would say my achievement in veterinary ophthalmology was actually being able to be with colleagues from around the world, in the States, in the US, and to have my poster presentation accepted was the biggest honor for me lah, personally as such. And that's pretty much that lah. Writing papers, just looking at cases, logging a lot of cases, writing it down. So any eye case that I see which is interesting, any eye case which is extremely challenging, like I had another cornea ulcer, I think a couple of weeks ago, I tried and did a flap on that eye. So I'm waiting for recovery from that eye. So that's something that. So daily, when you see certain things and you try certain new techniques and so on and so forth, and that is something that you can think and be proud of, and probably even think that, hey, that's my technique, and it's different from the book, and it's something that, yeah, I can probably write a paper. I can be proud of that and whatnot, and just for the veterinary community, and that's what you wanna to strive and achieve. Yeah.
And students, actually, for these prestigious conferences, it is not easy to get your paper accepted. So I understand what Dr. John is saying.
I paid for it. Dr. Farhan, I'm sure you guys know. Dr. Farhan helped me with the poster.
Oh,
I was not sure about how to prepare the poster, blah blah blah, whatever.
okay,
and whatnot.
doctor. This time you can send to me. I can help you.
So so he helped me out with the poster, where to print and whatnot. I think Farhan was in UPM then. So exactly. So he was helping me out a lot just before I flew to the States to present my poster. So that was and the thing is, it was a how do I say, it was a scary moment, because I was amongst the cream of the crop of veterinary ophthalmology in the world. The Americans, the Europeans, the Japanese, the Koreans, the Latin Americans, and whatnot. They have got schools of their own. So veterinary ophthalmology groups, I would say, and whatnot. So they to be around them was very intimidating and very humbling as well. And to share knowledge and to be part of that community was I felt very honored to be around those people. Yeah.
We feel like a plankton in a bikini bottom.
That's true. That's true. I think it's pretty much that the more you learn, that you know very little is so evident. And you need to just keep pushing and pursuing further, and learning new stuff and whatnot. And that's how you get good at certain things, as a whole. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, doctors. And I'll pass the floor to Adaf to conclude this episode.
Okay, so before I conclude this episode, do Dr. Jonathan or Dr. Shahira wants to add anything more?
Nothing.
So I guess
Continue.
I guess probably to just conclude, like I said, I'm very honored. I am invited as a speaker for this particular little podcast. I hope that I've incited a little bit of interest, a little bit of passion towards the eye. If you look in school, I think because you guys are still in your first and your third years and whatnot, you probably have not reached to the point where you're going to learn a little bit about ophthalmology just yet, I'm sure. But when you get there and you know certain things and whatnot, it's interesting to move further towards that. That's how I started as well. Like I said, I started off with veterinary orthopedics, thinking that would be the route that I would take. But, I kind of lost interest that way. And you will probably get your passion as you move along school, and probably even move out of school, and then after that, while you're in practice, probably come up a strike a an interest or a passion or something that they might stoke you, like, hey, I think this is an area of veterinary medicine that I want to be the best in, and then work towards that. And I think that's the way to move forward in any vet. I think specialty veterinary specialty is the way to go in the future. You cannot just be a practitioner anymore, I would say. Yeah.
And doctor, if I may add, you need to find a mentor.
That's true. That's
Ah,
very true. That's very
mhm.
true. It's a bit difficult to navigate alone if you don't have someone to kind of just at least roughly guide you or point you in the right direction. That's true. Agreed. Agreed.
If let's say there's an international conferences in Malaysia and they need students to volunteer, please volunteer. You will meet a lot of um people sparks interest in you. It's so different.
Every opportunity you have to go, or I know right now, I think the next Vasava is coming up in Peru.
Yes.
That's South America. South America is, the plane tickets are crazy, yeah, for South America. uh, um, Again, something somewhere close by. If it's somewhere in Asia, if you get a chance, go. If it's nearby and if it's
Cheap.
economically viable to travel and whatnot, yeah, get all chances to go, ladies. I think you just need to remember, yeah, the world may be your oyster, but uh, going out and exploring the world, that's where you're going to acquire more knowledge, and so on and so forth. Malaysia is just one page of a book.
That's all for today. Thank you, Doctor. And that is all, folks, for our sixth podcast episode. It was an interesting topic we had today as we got to know more about veterinary ophthalmology. So, to summarize today's session, veterinary ophthalmology is an intriguing area to pursue in Malaysia. And we hope that this podcast session will open our listeners' eyes and encourage our fellow veterinary students to choose ophthalmology as their area to further on if they want to. Thank you, Dr. Nurshahirah, and also Dr. Jonathan, for taking the time to talk about this topic with us today. For our listeners, thank you for tuning in on our podcast. And once again, thank you to our team for making this podcast possible. Have a good day, everyone, and stay safe.